And then, okay. End screen is the next thing. And then I have to walk
We're ready?
You're going to take the put the
Oh.
תתקשר אליי.
שאני אתקשר.
כן, אני אבוא. האמת שאתה יודע, אני אבוא.
Is there a briefcase? Is there a case?
He's going to come. He's going to do Okay, save it. Okay, today we have on our schedule, we're going to continue from chapter 245 and hopefully complete it. And before we begin, I want to do a little summary of some important summer halachas for Shabbos that come up. Shabbos summer halachas. So we'll repeat something we've already dealt with in the past regarding may one take a shower. And we've explained that in a time of need, a person feels disgusting, repulsive, sticky. By some people, it's so bad that they become agitated, they can't focus. Different people have different, they react differently to it. So basically, if it's considered a time of need, and that's for each person to define on his own, he can take a cold shower. That means not turning on the hot water at all, not even a little bit, just the cold water. And he has to be careful not to dry his hair. He has to be careful with a towel, right? He can't rub his hair with a towel. He can only place or rest the towel on it is permitted, or lightly tap it dry, but not to rub it dry. You see sometimes in the mikveh people doing this. They are obviously unaware of the halacha, and they are to be told it's forbidden to do so on Shabbos. In fact, that is one of the reasons why the custom of Jewry became not to bathe even in cold water on Shabbos, even though technically it's permitted, because people don't know the halachas and come to trans. Schita, yeah, schita seah. Squeezing water out of hair. And that prohibition of squeezing.
Together, all the electric, everything.
Where does it go?
I talked to him.
Okay, go ahead.
That prohibition of squeezing water, squeezing from hair, applies to body hair of the beard, the head, and the pubic hair in the pubic area and under the armpit. It does not apply to any other hair. Regarding the mustache, it also applies, but in a time of need, a person can be lenient if it's annoying. Eyebrow hair is a discussion, it's debated, but other hair, let's say arm hair, like hair, does not have a problem of squeezing, and therefore does not have a problem of drying on Shabbos. Another issue we have to be aware of is that in an area without an Eruv, it is forbidden to carry the water on the body. So if you're immersing a mikvah, or you're walking down the boardwalk in Tveria, and you just, wow, look at that water, and I'm super hot, I just can't hold myself back. And why not go for a dip? So obviously you can't swim in the water, you can't tread, and you also have to be careful not to carry. You can't carry water, so you have to dry yourself as you go up. There's a mikveh next to Meron that a lot of people go to, and it's outside the Eruv area. So that mikveh, a person would have to be careful to dry himself before he gets out of the water. And how's that possible? Meaning you lift yourself up from the water and you dry yourself before you take your feet out of the water and walk into the regular dry land. Other halachas regarding the summer. In the heat, we tend to like to drink cold drinks and icy drinks. So we're going to review some ice halachas that are pertinent to Shabbos. The issue with freezing or with melting ice on Shabbos is the rabbinical prohibition called moiled davar chadash, to create something new, create a new item, like liquid from solid or solid from liquid. And therefore there are restrictions. Regarding freezing, bottom line is that we are stringent to rule that it's forbidden to freeze something on Shabbos. If you want it, put it in the freezer to get it cold super fast. It's not a problem. If you want to put it in the freezer so it becomes ice, it is a problem. We do not do so on Shabbos because we consider it as moiled davar chadash. You're creating something new. You're creating a solid from a liquid. So we can't make ice cubes on Shabbos. We cannot do, any of these freezing of liquids on Shabbos. Regarding melting, so can I take it out? So the rule is like this. Any melting that's done with your bare hands or an action of your body, energy is forbidden. So for example, if I took out a half-frozen juice bottle from the freezer, and I would like to shake it up to melt it as much as possible so I can enjoy a glass of really cold juice, it's forbidden to do so. Because by you smashing it up, or banging it, or shaking it, you are actively melting the ice. And that is an isser, according to all opinions, according to the Balamai halacha of Mailid Davar Chadash. What can you do? You can take it out and let it freeze on its own, and let it melt on its own. You can take it out and pour it into your cup, and you don't have to worry maybe that action will cause melting, because right now that is not your intent. Rather, your intent is simply to remove the liquid from the bottle into your cup. There's also no issue with ice melting into a liquid. That's why you can take ice cubes out from the tray and put it into your cup of liquid to cool off your liquid, because even though your action is causing it to melt, number one, it's melting passively, but mainly that's not the real reason of heter. Mainly is that the melting is not recognizable. You can't tell where this melted liquid went. It mixed in with all the other water, it joined together with the rest of the juice, with the rest of the liquid in the cup, and therefore there's no issue with doing so. So according to all opinions, you can take ice cubes and put it into your cup on Shabbos. Now, what about putting it into an empty cup? So putting it into an empty cup has two issues. Issue number one, let's say I have a serving tray, and I want to bring a whole bunch of ice cubes in a serving tray on the table, and everyone will take with one of those prongs, they'll each take a little ice cube and put it in their cup. So here the question is, by doing so, you're allowing the ice cubes to melt on their own. They're not melting into anything, there's no liquid there, it's just ice cubes. On the other hand, we can argue that I'm not doing anything actively for it to melt. I'm just putting it out of the freezer, out of the frozen zone. So this is a machlekes, if it's mutter or not on Shabbos, amongst today's poskim. And the bottom line is, the best thing to do is to take the back road, which avoids the traffic, avoids the disputes. And how do we take the back road? Before you put the ice cubes in, put a little bit of water in the bowl, and then put the ice cubes in.
A little bit is okay.
Yeah, so long as they're not going to melt into the water. Instead of it melting and being recognizable, entering into the debate, it melts into the water and we avoid the issue. Another issue with putting it into your cup first is that when you pour the liquid into it, the pouring causes it to melt. So therefore, what a person should do is do the opposite. He should first pour the liquid into his cup and only then put the ice cubes into the liquid for it to cool off his beverage, not the opposite. That's to prevent, again, the isser of Mailid Davar Chadash. Okay, I think that covers the basis of our ice halachas. What else do I want to touch upon? We talked about ice, we talked about showering. Oh, Sama, right.
Right. Putting ice cubes in the freezer to freeze and then take.
So as we said earlier, that to freeze is practically the rule is forbidden because it's similar to the idea. In other words, the idea we're not discriminating against turning ice into liquid. We are discriminating against changing the form. We need to respect everyone's form the way they are on Shabbos, right? It's a general Shabbos mode. We don't kill bugs. We don't kill animals. We leave everything as the status quo. We don't punish. Everything's holy. Everything's left as it is. We don't change people on Shabbos. We don't change things on Shabbos. So the same thing. We don't change the liquid into ice, and we don't change the ice into. This is different on Yantiv. On Yantiv, all this is mutter according to the Alter Rebbe, according to Shulchan Aruch. There is no issue whatsoever. You can melt. You can put it in your ice cube in your cup first, and then pour the water. You can do whatever you want. There are no restrictions as it's food related, and we don't apply the isser of Mailid Davar Chadash regarding food. Our third discussion regarding summer laws.
So would you say the ikka then is whether it melts by itself or whether you cause it to melt?
According to some poskim, they learn is that it's only also when you do something actively for it to melt.
So for example, a lot of people freeze milk because they want it to last. If you take frozen milk out, on Shabbos or just before Shabbos. Just to put it in the sink to melt. That's okay?
If you did it before Shabbos, what's the problem?
And if you didn't do it before Shabbos?
So you didn't do it before Shabbos, and this enters into this debate. Does passive melting, is that considered a problem? That's the question. Is passive melting considered a problem? And again, some people are makel, some people are lenient and do so. And I personally try not to be makel on this, because that's my understanding of the sources of the Alter Rebbe. And I try not to melt things on Shabbos such a method. But once again, if it's not fully frozen, if it's a little bit melted, then there's no problem with letting it melt into the liquid. So too, like another option is I can simply cut the plastic bag of milk, take the frozen block of milk out, put it in a bowl with a little bit of water. And once again, I've circumvented the issue. But those that are worried, how can I enter water into my milk? Then good morning, America, they should never drink milk again, because unfortunately it's tremendously diluted. Okay, the third topic is we dealt with this on Thursday's daily halacha, which is creating for oneself a sun blocker to put, not lotion. I'm not talking about sun blocking lotion. I'm talking about putting up a hovering to shade from the sun. This is more commonly done with a child. When a child is in a stroller, you want to lift up the hood of the stroller to block the sun from the child. Or any case of the like, that you want to put up a hovering for the sake of blocking the sun. So this enters into the question of making an oihel, a tent on Shabbos, a temporary tent, which is rabbinically forbidden. And the bottom line halacha is that it is forbidden to make a hovering on Shabbos for the sake of protection from the sun. That everyone agrees to. Where is there debate? In the event that you already set everything up before Shabbos. Everything was set up before Shabbos. On Shabbos, all I have to do is unfold it, and voila, we have a full set-up hovering. I'm not going and attaching the hood, the canopy on Shabbos. It's already attached before Shabbos, but it was closed, and now I open it.
Like an accordion-like stroller cover.
Like a hood of a stroller.
Okay, so that's how you normally do it anyway. There's not like a
hood of a stroller, so that's the classical case of this debate, of this question. Would it apply in such a case where it's already attached before Shabbos? We have a major debate in Poskim. Some side it's allowed, some side it's not allowed. While the custom of the world is to be lenient, it's just simpler and easier. That's my theory. Whenever something is simpler and easier and to be usher, you need to actually learn. The status quo is that people are lenient. But nonetheless, this is the custom as the majority of, as many places can rule, but according to the Alter Rebbe, it's forbidden. So as Chassidic Chabad, we do not cover the canopy over a baby on Shabbos, the hood over a baby on Shabbos, unless it was open one tefach before Shabbos. So before Shabbos, you opened up your stroller, and you went over to your hood and you pulled it open 49 centimeters or more. Then it's okay, according to everyone, to open it further and to close it up until the opened area. However, if you didn't do this before Shabbos, according to our ruling, it is forbidden. So get yourself a nice Litvish Yid who wants to do you a favor. Tell him you follow the Mishnah Brura, you follow the Chazon Ish. Says, no, I don't. Yes, you do, right? You follow the Chazon Ish, right? So please open up my stroller.
Really, you can do that.
Yeah. And then probably he'll stop doing because people don't like it when they're viewed.
It's the same thing with an awning over a porch. It's open at 10.
That is a little more severe. It could be a little more severe. It could be a little more lenient. It could be a little more severe because there it wasn't. It's not. We may not consider it as a full-fledged attachment. It's discussed, but the reason to be lenient is because you already have the roof of your home. So let's say it's an extension of your home just to the outside. So it's again adding a tefach to your roof. So the sides here and there to prohibit or permit it. But yes, let's say if you had a lot of people have the porch tables with those sun umbrellas that you open up. So according to the Chazon Ish, that as well follows the same line of thought, would be permitted because it's already pre-attached. But according to our ruling, it is forbidden to be open.
He doesn't even require the tefach?
No, because he holds once it's pre-attached for Shabbos, it's already considered a done deal.
Okay, so you need to open the whole top of the stroller accordion thing, even though it wasn't set up at all anyway before he's opened it. And who holds by that?
Many people, many Ashkenazim. Okay, we are going to chapter 245, Reish Mem Hey, and we were up to the third seif. No, fourth, Sif Dalet. Let's just review what we did so far. Again, this chapter, Reish Mem Hey, is discussing the laws of running a business on Shabbos. Running a joint business that is jointly owned with a Gentile on Shabbos. This is something new. We didn't discuss this concept in the previous Samanim, which more dealt with hiring a Gentile to do work for you over Shabbos, or renting your place to a Gentile who will then do work in your place over Shabbos. We never dealt with a business that was actually had joint ownership. And what we explained is that if there is no Maras Ayin involved, such as people all know that it's joint ownership, and when it's on Shabbos, that's on the guy's cheshbon, or people don't even know there's a Jew involved in the ownership, then it is permitted prior to beginning the business to set up with the Gentile. You're going to get all the profits of Saturday, and I'm going to get all the profits of Sunday, and the profits of the rest of the days will just split evenly, and that's a way that's kosher for it to be done. So on Sunday, the Jew works in the store the whole day. On Saturday, the guy works in the store the whole day. And the rest of the week, they can switch off. You work half the hour, whatever they arrange. And in that case, he gets the Saturday money, the Jew gets the Sunday money. That is the kosher way to be. We said that in the event that this was not stipulated beforehand, someone didn't know. He started his business with a Goyish partner. Of course, he doesn't work on Shabbos, but his guy worked on Shabbos. And he didn't know he had to split the money. Now he comes to the Rav. So the Rav, number one, tells him, all the money that was made till now, you have to give the guy 1/7 and split only the rest of the 6, meaning you get 3/7 and he gets 4/7 of all the income of that year. Or however many years this arrangement has been going on for. Now, if the guy says, no, it's okay, I'm Michael, he's allowed to be Michael. The guy's allowed to give the Jew a present. It's his decision. But technically, the money is his. You're not allowed to take the money. And for the future, remember what we learned? What did we say to do? What do we do for the future? He already started the business with no deal, no stipulation, no agreement. What did we say? Anyone remember? We said that he has to abolish the business in one of a few ways. Way one, sell this business to a guy, or anyone, Jew, buy it back that same day, and then restipulate. It's a new business. So you get yourself a lawyer, you'll sell the business to the lawyer, you'll buy it back that moment from the lawyer, and the lawyer will make the stipulation contract that the guy gets the Shabbos income and you get the Sunday income instead, etc. Another way is for you to break the partnership, to split all the assets, which I think could be a little more complex. But nonetheless, that's another way of doing it. And then re-enter into the business arrangement, the partnership, and under the stipulation, above said stipulation of taking the different days of income each to the right. Now, what happens in a case that there is no partner? I am the only Jewish owner. However, I would like for this business to make money on Shabbos. Can I sell my business to a guy for Saturdays and holidays? Is that allowed? So obviously we already learned that even if you're leasing it for 2-3 years, if it's called by Hashem Yisrael, it's Maras Ayin. If people know it's Jewish, it's Maras Ayin, you're not allowed. That we learned in our first chapter, dealing with the subject 243. So that's clear that if it's a case of Maras Ayin, everyone knows that this is a Jewish-owned business, and there's nothing to talk about. None of this would work. However, if people don't know it's a Jewish-owned business, for whatever reason, people don't know that it's Jewish-owned, are you allowed to sell it to a guy for Shabbos alone, for Shabbos itself? So there is room to be lenient, especially in a case where we're dealing with a person who is not so Shema Shabbos, he's not so from, he's not able to stand to the Messiah. So better than him running the business as a Jew on Shabbos, it's the worst of the two evils for him to have it arranged. Mechira, just like we do mechiras chametz, so we do mechiras chanut, mechiras biznasai. Mechiras is business, selling his business for the 24 hours of Shabbos to the guy, and he has to arrange whatever he arranges with the guy regarding, to compensate him for his troubles of going through this circumventing sale, and that would apply to every single. Once again, this is only allowed if there's no marasayim. If people know it's Jewish and there's nothing to talk about, it is completely forbidden to run this business on Shabbos, even through mechiras, even through settlement. The next halacha of Sif Dal, which we're up to, deals with investments. Are you allowed to invest money, or in simple terms, give cash to a guy, even though he may, or perhaps will for certain, do business with it over Saturday? Now, even though in most countries Saturday is a non-business day, so the stock market's closed, most businesses are closed, etc., it's not a work day, we have to remember that we're not all in the same area of the globe. So while for me it's already Shabbos, for him it may not be Shabbos, but he's still doing business for me on Friday, which is still a work day. Or for him it may be already Sunday. And in those areas they have, the banks are open, he can already do business on Sunday. So these are all questions that come up. Can you invest money with a guy? Now, you shouldn't think, this isn't relevant to me, I'm not no billionaire, I'm not investing with anybody. This is all irrelevant, uncommon, wrong. If you own a bank account, which probably everyone does, you have just invested money with the bank. You've given them a loan. So too, if you have a pension plan, a pension plan by definition doesn't just sit there in an account and grow money. It's invested in stocks, in funds, and whatever it is that the plan that you are involved in, that your employer is involved in, decides to invest in, and that money is under your name, it's your portfolio, and that money is invested in different businesses. So if they're going to be running this on Shabbos, they're going to be doing a sale on Shabbos. Let's say they invested 50% of all of their clients' pension in Facebook. And a huge scandal just broke out, and Facebook is plummeting, and this guy on Shabbos goes and he sells all the stocks. Is that mutter? Is it mutter to enter into such a situation? Or can you only invest your money with a bank or with an investment firm, etc., that will not do any business on Shabbos, which will make it very difficult, basically, to invest? What do you guys say? No comment?
You must be able to do it. I don't know why.
It must be.
Well, because, everybody is good. I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe I can't buy stocks in Facebook because Mr. Facebook, he's going to do, the owner of Facebook, who is a Jew, by the way, may do business on Shabbos with that money. Right? So let's see. This is the issue discussed in the Mechaber Sif Dalet. Yachol Yisrael litain la'akol mois l'sasik v'hem. It is permitted for a Jew to give money to a Gentile for him to do business with him. Now, even though the Gentile is going to do trade, buying and selling with your money, and even though that you are getting a 50-50 agreement with the guy, meaning that you invested with him $10,000, and the deal is that you annually collect 50% of the profit. So if at the end of the year he made on your $10,000, $2,000, you collect $1,000 and he takes $1,000, right? That's his incentive. He's not working for free. But your incentive is that he's making money for you with your money. There's no issue here of ribis, of course, because it's a guy, right? There's no issue of ribis with a guy, so that's not an issue. So even so, says the Mechaber, it's mutter, even if it's a chance that he's going to do business with him on Shabbos. As this work is not work that I have to do, the owner of the money has to do, and the guy is doing on my behalf. This is his business. This is his money that he was given as an investment, that he's doing work to make money on himself. It has nothing to do with me. We have a general agreement. The agreement isn't that you shall trade for me on Shabbos. The agreement is take this money and make more money out of it. We can't, one of the whole reasons that we said earlier that we prohibited having a guy do malach for you on Shabbos because it appears that he's your shliach, he's your messenger. Rabbinically, even by a guy, we say a messenger is like you. Over here, he's not my shliach at all. Did I tell him to sell and buy on Shabbos? I'm not telling him anything. I'm giving him money. I trust him to be a good businessman, and I want him to bring profits, revenue. Furthermore, the issue of marasayin that we've constantly brought up that prohibits doing it even when there's no problem with the meal and doesn't apply here because no one knows who this money's from. No one considers it to be the money, of this rich man. They consider it to be the money of the guy, of the investment firm. In general, when firms or banks invest money, nobody even knows who the money's coming from. We don't know who the investors are. He knows, but no one else does. So there's no issue.
Can I insert very quickly a question from the audience? I've never seen this before happen, but there's a question about the simple question. In Israel, does everyone just assume that businesses are Jewish owned?
It sounded like you answered.
I tried to say it, I'd answer later, but I wasn't able to.
In Israel, do we assume that all businesses are Jewish owned? The answer is that in general, whenever there's a suffix, whenever there's a doubt, we go by the majority of the area. And here in Israel, certainly majority of businesses are Jewish owned. So yes, a person would have to verify, but in general, whenever you're investing, money in a firm, a business, a bank, it's not such a big deal to find out if it has Jewish ownership. Now, if it's a public bank or a public business, then obviously chances are there is Jewish ownership because if there is, for example, Facebook is Jewish owned. So the question is, does that change the equation? Okay, so let's get to a Jew, a non-religious Jew, running his business on Shabbos. Can you invest in such a business? Let's get to that afterwards. Of course, we're going to deal with a guy, and then we'll get to a non-from Jew.
Okay, and then there was one other with maybe regarding making a tent or the ice thing. I think are there similar halachas regarding pack and plays? I don't know what a pack and play
Same
is.
idea. Pack and play. If it was folded, attached before Shabbos, you can open it on Shabbos without a problem. But you can't put any hovering on top. However, this allowance is only in the case where I am the investor and he's the businessman. He is the person who's dealing with and taking this money and making it fruitful and multiply. However, if in this investment firm I invest $10,000 and I show up on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday to work, and he shows up on Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday to work, it's already, you're both working it. It's a different arrangement. Since I have to work one day corresponding to the Gentiles' work of Saturday, this enters us into the same exact case that we started off the chapter with, in which you have to make a stipulation. Whatever money, revenues on Saturday belongs to the guy, and in exchange, whatever money it brings in on Wednesday, or whatever day you choose, belongs to the Jew. So we're going to read inside a few applicable cases that relate to this idea of investment. We're going to discuss stocks, bank accounts, and other issues that we touched upon. So let's talk about stocks practically. Can you invest money into a stock? As we said before, can you have money invested in a bank? Can you have money invested with your pension fund? Or whatever it is that your money is being taken and invested into different portfolios. So let's first deal with a bank. With a bank, that is really not an issue at all, because notice how this entire halacha was discussing specifically investing money with the guy, which means that the money's mine. Those $10,000 are mine the whole time. The revenue is split between me and him. He takes 1,000, he takes 50% annually, and I take 50% annually. But the money is never his, ever. It's a pikad. So to by a bank. But sorry, by a bank it's very different. By a bank, I am lending money to the bank. The money is no longer mine. It's theirs. When I lend money, if I lent you $100, and I went back to you a day later and I said, look, I changed my mind, give it back to you. Give it back to me. Do you have to give it back to me? Absolutely not. The loan says, this is the due date, you have to give it back to me only by the due date. The money's already yours. I gave it to you. It's your money. It's not my money.
Until the due date.
Until
the due date.
Even after the due date, it's still not my money. You owe me money, but that money is not my money. The money I gave you is 100% yours. It's your money. It belongs to you. However, you have to pay me back. That's why you have a right to take this money and spend it. If I lent you my phone, can you go ahead and sell my phone to someone? So you lent it to me, it's mine. No, because that's called lending an item, is on condition to return. Money is a very special type of lending, that when you lend money, it's given for the person to use up. Oh, it was a very special $100 bill. How can you have used it? Fool, then why'd you lend it? You lend it to someone to stare at it, to do what with it, you know? So money, and therefore it's a very different case. It's a lot more lenient. We don't even enter into the whole question. There's absolutely no issue whatsoever for me to lend money to a guy and him go ahead and do whatever he wants with it on Shabbos during the week. It's not me. I have nothing to do with it anymore. It's as if I bought something from a guy on Friday. He took the money I gave him and he used it to do malacha on Saturday. Nothing to do with me. It's his. It's completely his. There's no connection to the Jew anymore. The fact that there's an IOU from the Gentile to the Jew is not relevant to the fact that he went ahead and used your money that is now his to go ahead and do something on Saturday. So that's not the halal question. The question is only in a case where it's an investment. The money's still yours. $1,000 is yours. Now, nonetheless, there is a different question that comes up with the bank. You see, when we put money in the bank, we're not trying to do them a favor. All business is based on what every side profits on. Business is not about milas chasadim. We're very, kind people. We lend money to banks. Banks are very kind people. They lend money to us. Everyone here is a shark in their own right. The banks are sharks trying to make money off of us, and we wanna keep money in the bank for whatever reason, maybe to collect interest, maybe for security reasons, whatever it is. Everyone has a benefit in leaving money in the bank. No one's doing anyone a favor. Now, one of the things that most banks offer is interest. Leave your money with us for longer, and we pay you for your money, just like a loan. Now, obviously, if it's a Jewish-owned bank, you have a problem with ribbis. Biblical prohibition of interest. So you have to do heter iska, and that's what's done here in Eretz Yisrael. They do heter iska. There's a general heter iska, which is a good idea for everyone to sign. Maybe next week I'll bring in sheets. Has everyone signed on heter iska? I'll try to bring in sheets next week. We can all sign on it. It's you can do it once a year to sign on the sheets. It basically says that all loans that I do will be under the stipulations of heter iska, which we don't even realize how many things in business and commerce today can be under a ribbis prohibition, especially in Israel that we're dealing with mostly Jews. In Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, where you have a large percentage of Goyim, there's no interest prohibition with Gentiles. But with Jews there is, so therefore heter iska is what's done.
And it works the other way also. You get a car, bank's giving you money for the car you just bought, and you're paying them.
Of course, the Isser of ribbis works both ways, whether to give or to take. Whether to be a recipient of interest, or whether to be a giver of interest to a Jew is a biblical prohibition.
So there's no reason I should assume that when I took a bank loan to get the car I got 2 months ago from Bank Leumi, that they automatically, because they know the law.
In general, Bank Leumi and all of these big public banks, they all sign on heter iska, but you also should sign. You have to know, because you have to be aware there's heter iska involved in this. You can't do the sale without knowing. You can't do the loan without knowing that there's heter rules. And this is how we rule in the poskim, that if you don't understand what heter iska is, then it's nullified. Even if you signed, even if next week I bring you the paper, you just signed, okay, so it's a religious formality, I'm signing, you have no clue what's going on. It's worthless. It's a piece of paper that's worthless. The conditions are worthless. Even though in general we rule, this is the fish, in general we rule, if you sign on a document, You're bound. It's like marriage. You can't say, well, I didn't know, I'm out, I want out. No. You gave the ring, that's it, you're married. There's no such thing. You can break the agreement through an halachic way called a divorce, but there's no other way out of it, right? So too, regarding any business contract you sign, you are legally and halachically bound to all the details of that contract. So even if they gave you 100 pieces of paper and you don't want to sit through 100 pieces of paper, and it happened to be, the small red lines on the bottom of page 66 on the other side, which you didn't even know existed, and now they're taking you to court for it, you can't say, well, Mr. Judge, I didn't know it existed. Why'd you sign it? But by Heter Iska we hold, it's not just a matter of signing a document, it's a matter of circumventing the ribis prohibition. So if you don't know that this prohibition is being circumvented, you don't know what's going on here, it doesn't work. So you have to understand the Heter Iska document. You have to understand how it works, that in essence what we're doing is not loaning the money, but investing the money. Half is a loan. That's where, anyways, getting back to our point. So the other issue we have with banks, however, outside of the issue of Shabbos work, which we said doesn't apply because it's their money, I lent it to them, so it's not an investment at all. We do have the issue of interest. Are you allowed to collect interest on Shabbos? So this is even by God. So it's like this. There's a number of issues that we've brought up before regarding doing business on Shabbos. One of them is Amir Lanafri, having the guy do work for you. So we said, when you lend money to a bank, that doesn't apply because the bank is not working for me, they're working for themselves. The fact they owe me money and I gave them this money is irrelevant. However, what does apply is the isser of making money on Shabbos. I'm not allowed to make money on Shabbos. I'm not allowed to benefit. I'm not allowed to make business, do business on Shabbos and profit on Shabbos. Now, if the bank says we give quarterly profit, meaning whoever had money for 3 months out of the year, we give them 3% of whatever they had in the account every 3 months, so you're good to go. You're not making Shabbos money, you're making quarterly money. You're making money based on quarterly profit. So it's not called an halacha havla. The Saturday income of interest that you're getting due to having your money loaned to them in the bank is not recognizable. It's part of the quarterly sum. However, most banks don't work that way. Most banks, in fact, I think all banks, they work interest on a daily basis. They don't give you the interest on a daily basis, obviously not. They usually give it at the end of the month, but they calculate it on a daily basis. For example, if you right now went to your bank and you emptied your account, they will pay you interest until yesterday. Because till yesterday you had money in their account. So they view it on a daily basis. So what ends up really happening? That every day they're giving you interest, including Shabbos. That means you're making money on Shabbos. So what do we do? This is a problem in every bank in the world. So you can tell the bank, don't pay me interest. They'll be very happy. Right. Or we can rely on the following heter. You see, the business day of the bank is not from Shkia to Tzeisak Echav. When the bank calculates and I tried to verify this through a number of bank employees, and they didn't have knowledge of this information. I don't know where this knowledge is hidden, but it's got to be somewhere up there, maybe in the accountants. I don't know who deals with this. But in any event, I couldn't get a clear, definitive answer of how the interest day is calculated. Let's say I took out my money at 7:35. I canceled the account. When's the cutoff line of interest for that day? So I didn't get a clear answer. But I think we can assume for certain, and this is written in Sfarim, that dealt with this question, that they're not doing it according to the halachic times of Shabbos. Meaning, they don't say, starting from sunset every Friday until Saturday night, Tzeisak Echavim, as it says in the calendar of the Zman Ga'enim, that's the interest that we calculate for Saturday. If you took out your money before sunset, then you don't get for Saturday. If you took out your money after sunset, you get for Saturday. Obviously not. They probably do it from like 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock or something like that. And being that that's the case, what ends up happening? That even Saturday's interest includes some of weekday interest. So once again, it's still considered swallowed. It's not recognizable, and that's basically the heter, to have money in a bank account.
Like the ice and water.
Now here in Israel, it's not such a problem, unfortunately, because many people have a minus. So it's not a problem of surplus. They have the opposite problem, giving interest. Anyways. I was once in a shir and he was talking about this, and someone said, Rabbi, we don't know what you're talking about. This stuff is irrelevant. It's like, why? It's like, I've had minus my whole life. I've never collected. But those people who have invested in the bank in stocks, or if they, let's say, right, if they have, and if they went to a bank and invested their money in a stock portfolio, then obviously that's no different than any stockbroker and investing in any stock, and that's exactly this case of, it's not a loan of money, but it's still an investment, right? There's a loan and investment in simple English is that when I loan money, that is a fixed sum that must be returned to me, plus whatever interest rate we agreed upon that I would get back annually. So that won't change, and I don't care if he used the money to buy, a McDonald's and made millions of dollars off of my money. I don't get a dime more. Or if he used the money to buy lollipops and doesn't have any money left, he still has to pay me that money. That's a loan. An investment, so it's taking a risk for good or risk for bad. So in essence, the money is mine. The money that we have invested in stocks, in essence, that money belongs to me. And that's why I either lose money when the stock value goes down or make money when the stock value goes up.
So it doesn't matter that your money is making money on Shabbos.
So based on the halacha, so that's the halacha it's talking about. So based on the halacha we just learned, if the company is Gentile owned, then I have no problem in investing in them. So let's say General Motors. Okay, I want to invest in General Motors. I bought, $50,000 worth of stocks in General Motors. I think, Trump's new policies are going to make it go up, and I'm really excited about this, so I invested $50,000. General Motors is owned by a whole bunch of goyim, so I have no problem. I invested with a few number of goyim. I invested the money, and they're going to be doing work on Shabbos, but it doesn't bother me because I didn't tell them to do it on Shabbos. They're not working for me. It's an investment. That's exactly what we just learned. No one knows that I, sitting in Sfas, am an investor. And that when they see General Motors, that's Goldstein's car that he invested in. Nobody knows. Nobody. So there's no matter sign.
Now Facebook, even though it's public and it's owned by many people.
Now what do we do when it's Jewish owned? Google. Facebook is less than Google. Google is the top.
It's Jewish owned, Google?
Of course, yeah. Russian Jewish owned.
But it's not. It's a public company. It's not really owned by one person. Really.
Public company. Who owns the stocks? You think in these public companies, the original owners, they blank out and go sit on vacation?
For the majority stock.
They own stocks. They have a voice in the company.
Okay. So there could be some Jews that
they have a voice. They have a vote. They have there's a board, and they can be actually voted out. That's the whole idea of a corporation, that in essence it's publicly owned. So you, the original founder and owner, can be booted from your own business.
So I have Facebook.
Right? But nonetheless, until you're booted, or even if you are booted, if you own a amount of stock, you have an automatic vote in the, depending how much you own.
It's not called ownership then. Okay. Fine.
Well, so it's like this. The issue with stock is that since we're saying that it's considered, this is a debate that the place can discuss since the concept of stocks came out, when it first came out. Just a fun fact for you to know, Londoner, that the whole concept of a business corporation was started by a Jew in England, in London, in the 1800s. He founded that concept of a corporation, where you can remove yourself from your business, and your business and yourself are two separate entities, meaning that you can live the high life, yachts, mansions off your business's money, and declare bankruptcy and not owe a dime. That was a Jew. So, the question that the postsman discussed is not just regarding Shabbos. Shabbos is one of the issues, but it's also chametz, it's also doing business with non-kosher food, anything that a Jew himself cannot do. When you own stock, maybe it's considered, it's not like I invested money with a guy. I said, Patrick, here, take $10,000, do business with it. Whatever he does with that money, whatever he does that $10,000, I didn't tell him to do it. He's deciding to do whatever he wants. But when I take that money and I am now buying a stock in a company, in essence, I own a brick of that company. I have, in essence, purchased part of that company, right? That company gets liquidated. I am part of the liquidation. I'm part of the assets that the liquidation has to be distributed to. So I am an actual partial owner. And that's the question, is stock ownership considered real ownership or not? If it is, we're in big trouble, because it's not similar to the case in the It's not similar to the case where I gave money to the guy, tell him, go do business, give me back 50%. This is like, I just bought a business. I just purchased a store, and the guy's running it on Shabbos. And here you have to do your arrangement that we said in the beginning. You have to split. You have to split, you get the Saturday income, I get the Sunday income. So if you don't do that, it's a problem. And how do you do it with a stock? And the stock's value goes up based on, it's impossible. It's impossible.
How much more so when a Jew owns it then? How much more?
How much more so? Yeah, when a Jew owns it's even more problematic. But so the answer is like this: the consensus in Poskim Baruch Hashem is that unless you own enough stock to actually have a say in the company, it's meaningless. You're not considered a real owner. If I bought, let's say, right, as we said before, let's say we said General Motors, I think it's General Mills, right, the big cereal company. So if I own, $1,000 worth of stock, can I knock on their office and say, listen, let me in, I'm a partial owner, I want a bowl of cereal, I want some Cheerios, they're going to throw me out, they're going to care less who I am. It doesn't work that way. But if I own a certain percentage of stock that I show them, that, listen, buddy, I got a voice in the board, then they'll give me cereal, they'll give me whatever I want. I'm an owner. That's the difference. Are you viewed as an owner or not? In essence, when you don't actually have a voice, you're really more of a lender than you are of an owner. So therefore, we allow everything if you're just a lender, even though we can be machmer. That's regarding Pesach, you include in Mechiras Chametz, there's nothing to lose out of it. But regarding Shabbos, it's if you want to be machmer, you Pasha can't invest in anything. Pasha can't invest in any stocks if you want to be machmer regarding Shabbos. So therefore, the minhag is that we're not machmer, we're not stringent, and it's not a problem. However, once you do own a certain amount, then we certainly have a problem, and you would have to, if you own that much money, you're going to have to sit down with the board and work out a compensation agreement with them of how you exclude Saturday income of this company from going to you, and instead you get that from somewhere else. That agreement will have to be made, and as we said before you buy your stock, before you become an owner, you have to already do this agreement. So if you're buying that much stock that you have a voice on the board, then that's what you would have to do in such a situation. Now, if it's owned by a Jew who's not from,
renting a zimmer to a Jew as a Jew on Shabbos, but not taking money on Shabbos. I'm maybe being stupid about this, but is that a problem? You're making money on somebody staying in your guest house?
Okay, that's the next simon. Simon Reish Vav, we're going to deal with rentals. Everything has to do with rentals is the next simon. Next week, I'm going to deal with that. 1 second, let me just check and see regarding a non-religious Jew. So it's like this. Regarding if you don't have a say in the company, as I said before, then there's no difference in a Jew or a Gentile. So I'm allowed to buy Facebook stock, because in essence what that is once again we view it more like a loan. So even though they may be doing business on Saturday, and he's Jewish, he's doing a sin, but it has nothing to do with me. His sinful behavior has nothing to do with me. It's, for example, if there's a store open on Shabbos, a supermarket, Jewish owned, it's open on Shabbos, am I halachically prohibited from buying there during the week? If I need to get some diapers, I'm not allowed to buy there? Of course you're allowed to. What's the connection between you buying there during the week and him doing a sin on Shabbos? Now I understand that when you buy from his business, you're helping his business, and that allows him, after the whole calculation, to still be open on Shabbos. the power of boycott is very strong, and sometimes we do it based on Gedolei Yisrael in order to force businesses not to break standards and not to be open on Shabbos, Chas v'shalom. So for more of a public battle against opening on Shabbos, we may boycott a business. That's done here in Israel.
But technically, by the letter of the
But from the
law,
letter of the law, there is no
restaurant,
issur.
a restaurant
Because,
is fully
the restaurant is a
kosher.
little different because you can't have hashgacha to a restaurant who's cooking on Shabbos. That's treif. Food cooked on Shabbos is treif. There's no such thing as hashgacha to a restaurant open on Shabbos.
You go to Wednesday. You go Wednesday to eat there, and you know they're open on
Doesn't
Shabbos.
matter. They cooked in the pots on Shabbos. The pots are treif.
Okay.
How can you give hashgacha to something? We already discussed in previous classes the arrangement of how a restaurant can be open over Shabbos. But in a case where there's absolutely no connection, there's no issue. So same thing, if I'm not a real owner, I'm just an investor with a little bit of money with no say, then the fact that Facebook may do or Google may do things on Shabbos has nothing to do with me. Now, should we have a public program of boycotting Google and Facebook in order to force them to not be open on Shabbos? Wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Your little store over here in Sfas, yeah, probably the whole Sfas, all the Shemer Shabbos, boycott them, they'll close. There's understandable power, but there's no halachic issue to purchase from them. Now, in a case that, however, you are, as we said before, you have a real partnership. So this goes back to what we said before. In such a case, once again, the only way to do it is by having this agreement with him, stipulating the beginning that you don't make any money from Shabbos. And of course, the fact he's not allowed to work on Shabbos, the fact he does it's his own sin. It's nothing to do with me. He's not working for me. He's not working on my behalf, and I'm not profiting from what he does on Shabbos. That arrangement has to be done. But the best thing in such a case is not to do business with such a partner. It's a Jewish partner who's going to be running the business on Shabbos. So let's say you won the lottery. You made $1 billion. You want to invest $500 million in Facebook, and you meet with what's his name, Mr. Zuckerberg in California. So you meet with Mr. Zuckerberg and you discuss, he's excited, you're excited. Now, what about Saturday? So Saturday, this is one of our main days of advertisement, of business. We do this, we have our, everything running. So listen, this is a big problem. We're Jewish. You can't have it open on Shabbos. So what I tell you in that situation is, if Mr. Zuckerberg wants to see a $500 million investment, then tell Mr. Zuckerberg that he has to sell his business for Saturday. So on all Saturdays, it's owned by a guy, unfortunately his wife. He can sell it to his wife, the Shabbos guy, and she'll own it on Saturdays, and the money will all go to her. The Saturday money belongs to the guy, the shiktzah, and on Shabbos, the Jews make the revenue. But those are the things that a person, when he does business, has to have in mind and has to already know.
Got to give like a 2-minute warning because I've got to pack this up and get it over there.
Okay, our next issue is is back to the banks, but this time a different aspect regarding the banks. And that is as follows. Can I do different bank actions on Friday, taking into account that they may occur on Shabbos itself? For example, can I put a check into my account and I know that they're going to be dealing with this check on a Saturday? So the answer is it's mutter, because based on this halacha we just said, because once again, by bank, it's not even an investment, it's a loan. I gave him this loan, and the bank decided to take the money for the loan on a Saturday. So that's their decision, right? When I give them, if somebody wrote me a check of $1,000 and I give it to the bank, what is in essence the bank doing? The bank is collecting $1,000 on my behalf, and now the money's theirs. They're keeping the money. All I have is a number. My number grew in my bank account. That's all that happened. I have no money at all. They have the money, and they owe me now a greater number. So the money's theirs, and the account is, and therefore, since the money's theirs, once again, this has nothing to do with you when they decide to cash the check or not. So therefore, it's mutter. There's no problem in doing different bank different bank actions on Friday, even though they may happen on Shabbos. And even if it's a Jewish-owned bank, once it's their prohibition. It's not my issue. Now, what about if you have a stockbroker and you tell them, listen, if you see this company, this stock value plummeting, whenever this happens, sell it right away. And it happens to happen on a Saturday. Here it's already a little different. Although we said when you invest with the guy, he can do whatever he wants. That's only when you didn't give him instructions work on Saturday. But if I tell him, I want you, part of our agreement of this investment, that every Saturday you're going to work as well, that's the Mechaber never gave a heter for that. That's under the prohibition of he can't set up a shliach, even a guy, to do work for you on Shabbos. So the question is this case considered it? Bottom line is that the poskim say it's mutter because you didn't tell him to sell on Saturday, you told him to sell if it plummets. Now it could happen on Saturday, it could happen on Sunday, it could happen any day. It wasn't a direct instruction for Saturday, and therefore they are more. Next week we will finish the last halacha on the sif, on the siman, and continue with the next chapter, chapter 2.